not provide death certificates. But even when a Holocaust survivor knows the exact account number, the banks still prevaricate. Stephen Foti, the son of a Holocaust victim, remembers his father's words.
My father told me, listen, I have the account number. You go to the bank and you are going to receive this, whatever you have there. Okay? So I was 100% sure that that's how this works.
His father had anticipated problems, so he hid his account numbers in his driver's license.
Are the numbers. Here are 4 numbers.
In one account alone, his father deposited 18,000 Swiss francs. But still, the Swiss bank denies any knowledge of the Foti account. Even when they announced the presence of 775 accounts untouched since the war, they refused to publish a list of account names. Swiss bankers claim strict privacy laws were introduced in the 1930s to protect Jewish bank accounts from the Nazis. But now these same laws are being used to deny Jewish families access to their accounts. The Swiss banking world is about to be blown apart by the intervention of a select group of powerful Americans. And one of the darkest secrets of World War II is about to be revealed. In 1995, the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II. But many survivors of the Holocaust and their relatives still suffer from wartime injustice. For years, Swiss banks managed to resist the claims of Holocaust survivors. It is time for some heavyweight help. It finally comes from a businessman who chairs the World Jewish Council. Having heard the tales of Holocaust survivors denied their rightful money, Edgar Bronfman decides to fly out to Bern and confront the Swiss bankers.
The entire Jewish world is part of my family. And sure, I lost 6 million members of my family, so to speak, in the Holocaust. And the victims, very much in my mind. And the survivors, very much in my mind.
Israel Singer works with him.
The people who were fighting in World War II were clearly the evil and the good, and the Swiss decided to be neutral in a struggle between evil and good.
They receive an icy welcome. The Swiss accuse them of devising a plot to discredit their banks. After lengthy negotiations, the Swiss bankers say they have found some old Jewish bank accounts. They offer to pay out $32 million. A fraction of the amount deposited in the 1930s.
This is supposed to be the final stop, and here's the money, and take it and behave yourself. What I realized was this is going to be a tough, tough battle.
The Swiss hope to head off the growing outrage by setting up their own investigation. September 1996. Switzerland's lower house of parliament votes for a sweeping historical study of Swiss financial dealings with Nazi Germany. Back in New York, Bronfman gains access to wartime documents. They prove that the Swiss had colluded with the Nazis. Bronfman is more than happy to reveal this, but he has another weapon. The U.S. Senate Banking Committee, chaired by Alphonse D'Amato, joins the fight to open the bank accounts. It has the power to shut down Swiss banking branches on Wall Street. This pressure makes the Swiss listen. January 1997, at a press conference, Senator D'Amato reveals some of the documentation incriminating Swiss banks.
For the first time since our inquiry began last December, we have documents confirming that the Swiss were actively and directly involved in shipping gold for Nazis. These documents show that the Swiss claim of neutrality in World War II was pure nonsense.
He cites wartime U.S. intelligence reports on Swiss support for the transport of Nazi gold out of Germany.
In January 1946, we have a memo directed to William Donovan. He was the head of the OSS at that time, which was the predecessor to the CIA. The document indicates that high-level Swiss uncovered trails of 280 truckloads of German gold bars sent from the Swiss to Spain and Portugal between May of 1943 and February 1944. 280 truckloads of gold.
At the same press conference, Elan Steinberg of the World Jewish Council makes it clear where much of this gold has come from.
The gold in those trucks included the gold of wedding rings, the gold from gold watches, and even, as we now know, its most grisly form, the gold teeth literally ripped from the mouths of the death camp victims.
Even President Clinton is prepared to reveal secret wartime files. In the face of these damaging revelations, the Swiss bank's resistance begins to crumble. It doesn't help when Christoph Miley, a Zurich bank security guard, flees to America with pre-war banking records. He has managed to rescue the documents from being destroyed, but he now fears for his life.
Und es sind zwei gewesen, hatten die Blätter aufeinander gelegt und gerollt und hatten die unter meinem Hemd hinein und hatten das einmal in meinem Kasten, in meinen Umkleidekasten gebracht. Dann bin ich zurück und habe das Buch von 1920.
Families of Holocaust survivors hire lawyers and promise to sue the Swiss banks for $20 billion. In an interim agreement, the Swiss declare they will pay out $10 million to elderly Jews still living in Eastern Europe. They reason that these people have suffered under both the Nazis and the communists. The money is welcome, but it is not good enough to halt international pressure. Switzerland's Foreign Minister Flavio Cotti feels the heat.
It's also our task in Switzerland to discuss this period of the Second World War, which was a very, very difficult period for our country, and where we certainly also made mistakes.
December 1997. Representatives from 41 nations meet in London at the world's first international conference devoted to hunting down Nazi gold. Delegates from Poland and Austria lay claim to 5 tons of looted gold held in Allied bank vaults for safekeeping during the war. They declare they will hand over any reclaimed money to a fund for Holocaust survivors. Among the delegates is U.S. Undersecretary of State Stuart Eisenstadt.
And therefore, we call on all concerned here in London and those elsewhere to accelerate the pace and complete their great task before we enter the new millennium. The work of the historical commissions underway in so many countries should be completed by then. The funds which have been established and those which will be established should disperse a generous portion of their contributions to Holocaust survivors by the end of this millennium.
But one of the darkest revelations comes when Swiss gold coins are tested for their chemical content. They are found to have a very high level of mercury, 10 times normal content, which indicates the presence of gold used to fill teeth. Forensic dentist David Whitaker thinks the gold has come from fillings torn from Jewish victims.
You wouldn't expect to find mercury to any great level in refined gold, gold that's used for bullion or gold that's used for making coinage and so on. So if you're finding, or if someone is finding fairly high levels of mercury, then there is a possible route, theoretically speaking, in which it could have got there. And one could set the scenario, for example, of gold fillings in a person's mouth, and also some silver amalgam in the same mouth, or indeed in other mouths close by. There is a possibility, I think, of some of that mercury amalgamating, chemically fusing, as it were, to the gold, and therefore becoming part of the bullion.
With the impending threat of boycotts and sanctions on branches of Swiss banks in the United States, Swiss bankers cut a deal, $1.25 billion. The sum would be paid out over the next 3 years. August 18, 1998, Senator D'Amato announces the good news.
And I think it brings closure to this matter, and it will bring a measure of justice and help to people who need it, and I'm tremendously pleased.
That same year, Nazi gold hunter Ian Sayer, along with Douglas Botting, publish a new edition of Sayer's book. Together, they claim there was a cover-up about American and German theft of Nazi gold in 1945. Sayer calculates the worth of the missing gold in today's value at $4 billion. He believes some was used to fund covert operations by the forerunners of the CIA.
I have good reason to believe that Nazi gold was being used by American covert operations to obviously to counter the communist threat.
Stung by this criticism, the U.S. State Department sets up a commission of historians to examine the controversy. 2001, the first major payments from the Swiss banks are released. Money is sent to 35,000 Holocaust survivors in 36 countries. Some of it is given to people used as slave labor by the Nazis. But for many of the people receiving it, it is a bitter reminder of wartime loss, as Holocaust survivor Barbara Traub recalls.
It took a long time, years and years, for the Swiss to even admit that there were those accounts, dormant accounts. But I think that it's better later than never. But there is bitterness in my heart.
After decades of deception, the Swiss banks finally settle their accounts with the families of Holocaust victims. But the painstaking investigation reveals something that defies explanation. How Switzerland made a pact with the Nazis and profited from it. Today, it remains one of the darkest secrets of World War II.